The Walking Dead Telltale games are truly some of my favorite video games ever, and the collective 4 seasons is one of my favorite stories in gaming. But in my opinion, there is one season that does stand above the rest, and that is The Walking Dead Season 1. This was universally praised and would really put Telltale games on the map. And this started their historic run with unbelievable games from so many different IPs. But I do still think that The Walking Dead Season 1 is their magnum opus. This game is impeccable in every way imaginable and is a game that just sticks with you in a way that not many other games can. And I truly think that boils down to its characters and story. If you know anything about this game, you know that the standout part of it is the dynamic between Lee and Clementine. They're one of my favorite duos in any video game ever. But besides them, I just think this game has such rich storytelling and is able to keep the player engaged and interested throughout the entirety of the game. Telltale is truly unique in its way of telling stories, as I felt like I was playing an interactive TV show where my choices mattered. This is one of those games I truly have so many memories of throughout the years. From watching the Rad Brad play it back in the day to playing it now, this game holds a special place in my heart. You go through this journey and adventure with interesting characters and dynamics, and watching them battle through the apocalypse is awesome. This is truly one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time. With that being said, let's revisit The Walking Dead Telltale Season 1. The Walking Dead universe was an extremely popular one back in the day around this time. The show was massive and had some amazing seasons, but most definitely fell off by the end and is still getting dragged out. With the TV show being around season 2 to 3 at the time when the game came out, the show was only growing, and to capitalize on that they made the Walking Dead Telltale game, which, like I said, was received amazingly. And honestly, in my opinion, might be the best piece of content that we have ever gotten in the Walking Dead universe. But getting right into the first episode, I think it does a great job of setting the foundation for the remainder of the game. We get introduced to most of the core characters for the story, and a lot of interesting dynamics get made, obviously the biggest one being Lee and Clementine. We meet Lee and learn that he is a convicted felon for killing the man that his wife was cheating on him with. At this time in the game, we don't really know if it was his intention or not. Everything seems chill until the police car crashes, and then Lee has to escape some walkers afterwards. Later on, Lee finds Clem all by herself as her parents were away when everything happened. So, Lee acts as a father figure for her and agrees to help find her parents. And he just continues to grow more and more into a father figure for Clem, and it's just beautiful to watch. But something this episode does a great job at is introducing us to characters and showing the player the type of difficult decisions that we're going to be having to make in this game. Just in this first episode, we had 2 instances where we had to pick who we wanted to save. The first one being at Herschel's farm, and then the instance between Carly and Doug. Okay, I want to say something about the Doug and Carly situation because it genuinely pisses me off. If we're being completely honest here, Carly should have easily been able to save herself. The walker is only holding one of her legs. Like, she could have easily just used her other leg to stomp on the walker's head, but nope, she couldn't do that. And then my poor man Doug got absolutely massacred because we didn't save him when honestly he needed the help more. There's a few instances like this throughout the franchise where the decisions just seem kinda stupid because you can just logically think how they could have gotten out of it. This episode really serves as a foundation building one by getting you acclimated to the game and getting yourself acclimated with your group. And just in this first episode, we really go through so many different locations. We have the beginning of the game, Herschel's farm, the convenience store, and then ending off at the motel. And I also just wanted to mention that this group hands down is the best group from any season in the Walking Dead Telltale games. But look, just because it's the best, it doesn't mean it doesn't have very similar flaws like other groups do in this series. I don't know why it's a thing, but for some reason there's just a constant theme in this franchise where the groups that you're with are just idiots. Like, they just be making the stupidest of decisions, and they can just be so annoying sometimes. Telltale just know how to write actually infuriating characters that piss me off so much. But I think this group has the least amount of those type of issues. And I think a part of that is because you're playing as Lee, who is an adult, so it kind of makes sense when characters are relying on you or asking for your opinion. Unlike other seasons where the characters just actually seem like idiots that are relying on a 13-year-old Clem. But a major theme with this group is that there's just basically beef with every single person in it at all times. Like, basically the second that Chew and Kenny meet the new group, him and Larry get into some big argument whether or not Duck got bit. Bro, I actually hate Larry with a burning passion from the get-go. I instantly had beef with this man. Like, there was genuinely not a sliver of Larry's personality that I enjoyed. Like, when that man punched me when we were all trying to escape, who does he think he is knocking me out like that? But in regards of the rest of the group, it's a mixed bag. There's some characters I really like and some I don't. Like, Kenny is awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. Lily is pretty annoying. She's Larry's daughter, so it makes sense why she's annoying. Carly's a decent character. I like her, and it was also really cool seeing Glenn in this. This first episode ends off with the group leaving the convenience store they were at and going to the motel. Overall, I think this episode does a great job of setting up the game and getting you into the story and the world of the Walking Dead universe. This second episode is absolutely wild. Like, things ramp up so much here, it's insane. At the beginning, we meet these people in the woods with a guy's leg stuck in a bear trap. And like any logical person would, I cut off his leg. And we take him back to treat him and we bring back another guy named Ben. Me and my homies hate Ben. Kaja attempts to treat the guy, but eventually he dies and turns without being bit. This is where we learn that you turn no matter how you die. You have to destroy the brain for it not to happen. We also learn about how the group has been struggling for food and everyone is starting to get a bit restless from the hunger. This remains a prevalent plot point for like the next 2 episodes. Then after that, Lily and Kenny get into some beef again, arguing about whether or not we should leave the motel. I'ma just say, the beef between Lily and Kenny did get slightly annoying. Like, so many of the decisions you made throughout this game was just whether or not you were going to be on Kenny's side or Lily's. Obviously I was on Kenny's side, but it did definitely get repetitive after a while. And I think it's sometimes an issue that the Telltale games have. Like, it's a very similar situation with The Walking Dead Season 2, where a lot of your decisions are just kind of focused around, are you going to be on Kenny's side or not? And it's annoying at times because I don't know how else to word it, but Kenny's like a really strong character in the sense of like, not many people are gonna like this guy. But obviously we're gonna have such a close bond with Kenny, so like obviously I'm gonna side with him, but like it annoys me that they couldn't come up with some other plot points sometimes. But after that entire fight, we get to give out rations to the group. And obviously I gave some rations to Clem, then Doug, and the last 2 I gave to Kenny and Mark. Screw Larry, I'm not giving that man any food. And from there, the episode picks up as we meet these 2 guys who are willing to trade some food for some gas. Nothing could possibly go wrong, right? We head over to the farm that they were staying at, and it seems perfect. They have this electric fence that keeps walkers out, and they seem to have a steady food supply. This could be the perfect scenario for the group. But, of course, that was never going to be the case. As the day goes on, we get attacked by a group of bandits and Mark gets injured. So the mom takes Mark away to treat the injury. He should be fine. I just really like episode 2 a lot. We have some great character moments, especially some interactions between Lee and Clem, like them on the swing set, and we just learn more about the world. Like at some point we have this super weird interaction with like this crazy lady that stole Clem's hat. It was just this really weird interaction. Even though everything at the farm seems really nice, we're obviously skeptical to some degree and the sons seem a little bit weird. So as we spend more time on the farm, we take some time to look around to see if we can find anything suspicious. And we eventually find this room in their farm. So Lee and Kenny go investigate it and open it up, and it seems to be some slaughter room. But we really don't get a chance to explore it until we get called for dinner. Obviously with all this happening, Lee is skeptical, so before he goes eat dinner, he explores their house. And well, he finds Mark without his legs. Of course these people just had to be cannibals. You can't have a zombie apocalypse without them. I felt so bad for Mark too. Like, this man was done so dirty. He was in the game for like a calm hour and that just became our meal. So Lee goes sprinting down the stairs and stops everyone from eating by saying that it's human meat. And we got there in time to stop Clementine from having any of it. An entire argument breaks out and then Andrew goes and grabs Clementine's hair. Bro, I knew it was gonna happen, but I still tweak out about it every single time. No one can touch Clem like that. It's really funny, but I feel like us as the player are very similar to Lee, where we become protective of Clementine so quickly. Like, when anyone does anything bad to Clem, I want to take them out. And then we get knocked out and wake up in this room with Clem, Kenny, Larry, and Lily. A great group of people to be with. Yeah, and this is where just one of the craziest moments happen in this entire game. After arguing with Larry, he proceeds to have a heart attack, and obviously with the new knowledge we have, we know if he dies he's going to turn into a walker. But he is still breathing and Lily is trying to save him. But Kenny wants to kill him as he thinks there's no chance to save Larry, so we have to decide whether or not we want to help Kenny or Lily. An absolute insane decision, but I sided with Kenny once again, but the way Kenny decides to take Larry out is absolutely insane. Using the salt lick was actually wild. It's actually the craziest thing ever. You have to forcibly pull away Lily to have Kenny drop a salt lick on her father's face? Like, it's actually wild. Now look, I absolutely love this moment, but here a very big issue happens that is kind of a common theme throughout the game. In this situation, you can pick between either helping Lily or Kenny, but the outcome is still the exact same. Larry is still gonna get a salt lick dropped on his head. And this happens multiple times throughout the entire franchise where no matter what you pick, the outcome remains somewhat similar or like the character dies anyways later on in the game. Like, I would have loved a situation where we are able to help Lily, but then Larry still turns and we have to deal with that situation. I still think there is a lot of player choice in this game and your choices do matter, but there are occasions where they kind of give the illusion of choice in situations. And then the remainder of this episode is us just trying to escape and take out the family, and we just get some crazy scenes with important decisions that affect Clem. We get faced with two choices on whether or not we want to kill the sons, and these directly affect Clementine in her view of the world. I absolutely love these moments where Lee makes these choices, and Clementine very much pays attention to them and takes them to heart. She learns about the world and how to live in it through these choices, and you have to decide what type of choices you want to make. I ended up taking out Danny with a pitchfork, but spared Andrew, and the mom also died to Mark as a walker. I really just love this final sequence so much. Just having the rain pouring, you and Andrew fighting at the end, you walking away with your group, like the entire moment was just awesome. This episode overall is just fantastic, and it's where the game really picks up with showing the cruelty of the world and the type of people we're going to come in contact with. We have difficult choices, people die, relationships grow and break. These are going to be constant themes throughout every single episode from here on out. And this episode ends off with us having to decide whether or not we want to take fruit from this empty car and to see the woman stalking Clem from before. Again, this episode is just fantastic and it really shows how crazy the rest of this game is going to be, and this is just the start of it. Now with episode 3, a lot of people die, like most of the group basically. This episode focuses a lot around the group and the internal conflict of it. Once again, we're struggling with food and supplies, and according to Lily, someone from the group has been stealing said supplies. So the first portion of this episode focuses around that and trying to solve the mystery behind it. We're Sherlock Holmes and we have Duck as our Watson. It's so funny having Duck help us through this section, he's just so awesome. I don't know why a lot of people didn't like him as a character. Obviously, he was somewhat annoying at times, but he's a kid, and honestly, he didn't do anything wrong at any point, unlike some characters. We don't find out who stole the supplies until we get attacked by the same bandits from episode 2. We get into this gunfight and barely escape. Along with that, this car ride is the opposite of peaceful as Lily continues to berate everyone trying to figure out who was the one that was stealing our supplies. A bunch of stuff goes down, arguments happen, and then Lily just shoots Carly in the face. Like, I was actually shook. It came out of nowhere, and I liked Carly, so it was so sad to see. After she did that, I decided to leave her behind and not let her back on the RV, and we still don't know who stole the supplies. This entire moment was insane, but I'm just happy for the fact that Lily is gone. She was so annoying throughout this entire game. And this game does not give you a second to breathe whatsoever, as once we get back on the RV, we go talk to Katja and Kenny and learn that Duck got bit when the bandits attacked. And look, I'm sorry, but this moment's just kind of funny in a way because Kenny is so hypocritical in this moment. Obviously it makes sense cause Duck is his son, but he was so quick to take out Larry, but now that it's Duck, he's taking all the time in the world. But then after that, we just get a beautiful scene with Clem and Lee, and I just love these two so much. But after all of that, we continue driving in the RV and eventually we find a broken down train and attempt to get it working again, and during this we meet a new guy named Chuck. We eventually get the train working and move out, but it's not soon after that Duck is about to die and we stop the train. This triggers genuinely one of the saddest and shocking moments in the entire game for me. This is where both Katja and Duck die. She said she should be the one to take him out and she goes into the woods to do it, but once we go after her after the gunshot, we find that she shot herself and Duck is still sitting there alive. I'm sorry, but I have to say this. I don't know how unpopular it is, but Katja doing what she did is actually insane. Look, I understand what she was going through was probably terrible. Having to go take out your own son, she could not handle that. But did she think for even a second what this would do to Kenny? The man is already in shambles over the fact that Duck is going to die, and then you go ahead and take yourself out also? My heart genuinely broke for Kenny here. I can't even imagine going through this. We have to decide there whether or not it should be us or Kenny to shoot Duck, and I picked Lee to do it. This is a major turning point for Kenny as a character in general. He was always a very standout character and very much voiced his opinion, but now on top of that he has this trauma of both his wife and son dying. And we watch it develop throughout time with him really struggling with this reality and watching him change as a person because of it. Kenny will never be the same because of this, and rightfully so. Like, this is genuinely up there for maybe all-time worst days in a human's life. It's really interesting comparing Kenny in Season 1 up to this point and Kenny onwards in this game and Season 2 because they're very much a similar character, but you can tell there's such a big difference though. Like I said, he's still very much the same character, but now he has this trauma around him, and it's just genuinely one of the most tragic stories in this entire franchise. But following that, we get some beautiful scenes between Lee and Clementine, with Lee preparing Clem more for the world and to help her survive. This is one of my favorite interactions with them in the entire series and one that resonates for the remainder of the franchise. Lee teaches Clem how to shoot a gun and tells her to make sure she keeps her hair short and gives her a haircut, which she will continue to do for the remainder of the series. Like, I just absolutely love their dynamic, and it's one of my favorites ever. And just so everyone knows, they did the father-daughter dynamic first, as The Last of Us came out after this game. Even though I do like Ellie and Joel's dynamic more. Lee and Clem just form such a deep bond between one another and truly become such a duo. I love both their characters so much, and it's easy what makes this game into what it is. The Walking Dead Telltale would not be what it is without Lee and Clem. And I feel like a lot of games struggle to do what this game was able to do with their dynamic and make you be able to care about them quickly and make it feel natural. A lot of games struggle to make real bonds and relationships between characters, but Telltale nailed it. But moving on from that, the remainder of this chapter we meet two new characters with Krista and Omid. Oh, and Ben also revealed the fact that he was the one stealing our supplies and giving them to the bandits. So yeah, he's kinda at fault for like 3 people's deaths because he just didn't want to admit it. Like, this man genuinely can't do anything right. And the chapter finishes off with hearing Clem's broken walkie-talkie working with the strange man's voice saying how he's excited to see Clem at Savannah. I love episode 3 so much as it very much focuses around the internal conflict with our group and a lot of our issues. We see so much go down and the group is very much in shambles at this point. And we just get some amazing character moments that are some of the best in the game. Now for episode 4, this has so much going on. This episode is all about us in Savannah looking for a boat. So that's what we do. We get to Savannah and start exploring the city. But building up to that, we get attacked by walkers and Ben completely abandons Clem in this moment. Another reason to hate this guy even more. And Chuck sacrifices himself to let us get away. So once we escaped, we eventually found a house to rest for a little bit. And in this house, in the attic, we find a child that turned into a walker. And we just get a beautiful moment here with Kenny and Lee, with Lee helping Kenny to take out the walker. I just love Kenny and Lee so much, and their dynamic is amazing. There's such a loyalty between them, and they're really such a duo. And again, we see here the effects that Duck's death had on Kenny. But after all of that, we head out, you and Kenny, to go look for a boat. And unfortunately, there's no boats whatsoever. If I'm being completely for real, I don't know why they thought there were going to be boats after all this time after the apocalypse. Like, those boats went away instantly. So yeah, the plan kind of failed, and as we try to go back to the house that we were at, we meet 2 new characters, and those being Molly and Vernon. I actually really like Molly as a character, and I wish she stayed with the group because she could have had some amazing development. And once we meet Molly, we kind of learn a little bit more about the lore of Savannah. Once the apocalypse happened, this place went to absolute hell. So basically, once the apocalypse started, there was this place that got formed called Crawford. And the only people that were allowed into Crawford were people that could actually contribute. So basically, to be allowed into Crawford, you couldn't be a kid, an elderly person, someone that was sick, someone that had a disability. If you had any issue, you were not allowed in. And once we meet Vernon and his group, those were direct people that were not allowed into Crawford. I really like this story because it shows the lengths that people will go to in these type of apocalypse situations. So once we make it back to the house, we go looking for Clem, and conveniently enough, the house that we're staying at, in the shed, there is a boat. So after learning all about this, we make a plan to get the rest of the supplies we need for the boat and medicine for Omid. Wait, hold on. I low-key forgot to mention the fact that Omid got hurt at the end of episode 3. We had to escape, but Omid was refusing to jump on the train, so I kind of pushed him off and he hurt his leg, and then he got mad at me for not saving Krista when he was the one that was hurt. The train was barely moving. Obviously, Krista was going to make it. Omid, though, I'm not sure. So getting that out of the way, we head off on this mission, and on this mission, we go into Crawford looking for these supplies. And it's successful. We get all the supplies that we need for the boat and medicine for Omid. During this mission, we also get a little bit more of a backstory on Molly as a character, and again, I really wish she did end up sticking with the group. I really liked her a lot. But if you thought Ben could not get any worse, oh my gosh, on this mission, Ben makes the stupidest of decisions ever. So eventually, at some point, we get all the supplies that we need, and we're trying to break through the armory to escape. And at some point during the mission, we put this little axe thing between two doors to hold it shut to keep the walkers out. And then Ben takes the hatchet out of that door to use it on the armory, and then all the walkers come out and attack us. And as all this is happening, the walkers attacking us trying to break out of the armory, Ben thinks it's a good time to tell Kenny that he was the one that stole supplies from our group and was the reason that Katja and Duck died. And look, I'm not even mad at the decision of telling Kenny in general, but then that's possibly the worst imaginable time to tell Kenny that you did that. And just to put the cherry on top, later in this episode we have to make a decision on whether or not we want to save Ben. As we're escaping the place we were at getting supplies for the boat, Ben falls and we're holding on to him with him blabbering onto us saying to let him go. And look, I know I've been clowning Ben this entire video saying he's useless, he makes stupid decisions. You would expect me to let him go. And all jokes aside, I really don't hate Ben. I think he's a good character that has his issues, and if you save him, he has some great character development with Kenny that is worth seeing. And if you do let Ben go, he honestly has one of the most gruesome deaths in this entire game. The man plummets down that entire tower but doesn't die and just has to lay there when the walkers eat him alive. It's actually terrible. And everything seems good. We make it back to the house and the mission was successful. But of course, it doesn't stay that way, and once Lee wakes up from his nap, we find out that Clem went missing. And the man that was on the walkie-talkie was the one that took her. Bro, I was so ready to take this guy out. Who's he think he is just taking Clem like that? He has no right whatsoever. And also during this, Lee gets bit. I was in shambles once this happened. This actually ruined my mood. Out of anyone that could have possibly been bit, it had to be Lee. The man is cooked at this point. And the way that he gets bit, it just pisses me off so much. It's not even it's poorly done, it's a completely realistic way of getting bit, but just the fact that the walker just jumps out of the cardboard out of nowhere, it's so annoying. But overall, I really do like episode 4 as it does a good job of setting up the finale of this game. We have to go save Clem, and at this point the player is as motivated as ever to do so. Now, with the final episode, it simply is straight depression. This last episode completely focuses around saving Clem. This entire final sequence was insane, with making the decision on whether or not to cut off Lee's arm, which I decided to do, and with Ben dying and Kenny getting lost in a swarm trying to help him. I want to dive into both of these moments real quick, starting off with cutting off Lee's arm. They waste no time whatsoever by making you make the decision on whether or not you want to cut your arm off or not. And it pisses me off because the choice doesn't even matter anyway. We already took too long to cut off the arm. But moving on from that, I just love this final moment between Ben and Kenny so much. Obviously, we know that Ben told Kenny what he did, and Kenny's rightfully mad. But then in episode 5, Ben just absolutely goes off on Kenny at some point. He expresses how he is sorry for Kenny, but then says how life hasn't been easy for him either. He explains how he has no idea what happened to his family because he wasn't with them when the apocalypse started. And when you think about it, he's right. He was with his team when all this went down. Kenny looks at Ben so differently after this, and not even just Kenny, I think us as the player look at Ben differently as well. Obviously, I'm going to continue to troll Ben for the stupid decisions he made, but he was just a kid. And if we're being honest, he low-key had some of the worst luck in this entire series. His death, bro, how unlucky can you get? He goes to jump and the balcony thing just collapses under him and then he gets pierced in his stomach. That's actually horrific. And then Kenny going down there to save him and shooting him before the walkers can get to him because he knows Ben's biggest fear is being eaten by walkers. It's a beautiful moment for Kenny here as he basically sacrifices himself and gets lost in the swarm. And if I'm being honest, I have no idea how that man survived. So then after that happens, it's just Lee, Krista, and Omid, but at some point we get separated from them as well, and it's just up to us to save Clem. This triggers just one of the coolest moments in the game. The aura that Lee had here was off the charts. Walking through the horde of walkers to go save Clem was something else. And we eventually get to the place where the stranger is keeping Clem. We have this whole convo with the guy, learning that he's been watching us and talking to Clem and how we're not good for her. The car from episode 2 that we stole fruit from was his car, which resulted in his loved one's deaths, so he believes that Clem is better off with him. This guy is an absolute psycho, and taking him out with Clem was arguably the most satisfying thing ever. Like, this man straight up just has his wife's head as a walker in his bag. He's absolutely insane. But yeah, this is just where the game gets really sad. We escape with Clem and we cover ourselves in walker guts so we can get away. But as we're escaping, Clem sees her parents as walkers, and Lee passes out right after. Lee wakes up with Clem in this building, and these are the final moments that they have with one another. This is truly one of the saddest, if not the saddest moment that I've ever experienced in any video game ever. Maybe even media in general. I have known about this death and seen it and experienced it countless times since the game came out. And no matter what, I will still cry at this scene. And I'm not alone with this, as anyone that has ever played this game can tell you, they cried at this scene. Like any Let's Play you ever watch, any Let's Play that I've watched, the people cry at the end and then I'm just sitting there crying with them all over again. I think one of the main reasons is because of the voice acting. I really think it's unbelievable from Lee, but especially Clementine. Hearing her emotional voice and her crying actually breaks me. And just saying your final words to her and how you'll miss her is tragic. Lee and Clem were the perfect duo, and seeing them being separated like this is heartbreaking. I'll let the scene play out just so y'all can cry as well.
Hey. You're strong, Clem. You can do anything.
But I'm little.
Doesn't mean nothing. You gonna see bad stuff, but it's okay.
My parents. It's so horrible.
I can't imagine, sweet pea.
And now, you? Please. Please don't be one of them. Please don't become a walker.
There's only one thing you can do. You know that.
I don't know if I can.
You have to shoot me, honey.
Lee, no.
It's okay. It's okay. Clem, I was standing over Doug holding that gun. It was so hard. I'm sorry you're in that position now. I'd give anything for you not to be. But you just have to point it at me. Close your eyes and be thankful you never have to see me as one of them. You can do it. I know you can.
Okay, Lee. I can do it. I can.
Find Omid and Krista. They're outside of town, by the train. You remember how to get back there?
Yes.
Good. They'll take good care of you. And Clem. Keep that hair short.
I will. I'll cut it myself.
Great. Good. And also...
What is it?
No, don't worry. All right. I'll miss you.
Me too.
Having Clem shoot Lee is just the saddest thing ever. She's just a kid, and having to be the one to kill basically your father at this point is terrible. Telltale nails the scene to perfection, and the emotions throughout are unbelievable in a gaming moment that I will genuinely never forget. And that's basically where this game ends, with Clem shooting Lee before he turns. Then we get one final scene of Clem out of the city and seeing two people in the distance who we presume to be Krista and Omid. I really do think that this is the perfect conclusion to the game. It hits every possible note that it needs to and wraps the story of this game together perfectly. The Walking Dead Telltale Season 1 is one of my favorite gaming experiences ever. From playing the game to watching countless Let's Plays of this, I have countless memories of this game. The story did something emotionally to me that not many other games have been able to do. You just form such a deep bond with Lee and Clem, and you really care about them. And other characters too, like Kenny, are just fantastic and have such depth behind them if you really look into it. We don't get games like this anymore, and I wish we did, as these are masterpieces if done properly. This game is hands down one of my favorite stories of all time. My final rating of The Walking Dead Telltale Season 1 is a 9 out of 10. It is truly impeccable in every way, and it is a journey you will never forget. And I recommend every single person to play this game. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would mean a lot if you could comment, like, and subscribe. I am eventually going to be making a massive retrospective of every single season in this series, so if that does sound interesting to you, make sure to subscribe to not miss it. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me, and I will see you guys in the next video.